Do you also have boxes and drawers overflowing with yarn? If so, join me for a yarn organization video and let's sort our yarn stash together. Hello and welcome to Knittinelis, a podcast where I talk about yarn, knitting and all the joy it brings me. My name is Zivile and I'm a knitter from Lithuania, currently living in Estonia. Today I want to chat with you about yarn, while I sort my own skeins, cakes and balls into some sort of a system. First of all, I will show you the current storage solution that I have and tell you about what is not working for me currently and why even I want to do this reorganization. And after that, I will try to sort all this yarn that I have into some sort of categories, chat you through them and of course share my favorite yarns. Before we begin, let me mention what I'm wearing today, and it's a blouse that I have knitted a couple of years ago during my vacation, and it is based on Ranunculus sweater pattern by Midori Hirose. If you want to find out a bit more details, what kind of yarn I used, what alterations I made, then stick to the end of the video. I will give you a short overview, but for now, let's get to yarn organization. So let me begin by telling you a little bit about my current yarn storage. So most of the yarns I keep in these 4 IKEA boxes behind me, which is not a bad solution, just it's really messy at the moment. I haven't sorted the yarn in any way, so I just drop it in there, forget about it, and then once I want to start some project, I really need to dig into those boxes to find what I actually need. And some other stray balls of yarn are either in the drawers behind me or in the drawer at my bedside, because I like to knit before sleep. And yeah, I just drop the yarn in the drawer and forget about it as well. So, what are my goals today? First of all, I want to a little bit air out the yarn and keep the airflow moving. Not to get some moths in it, which is never a great thing and it's so difficult to get rid of. Second of all, I want to collect all the balls and skeins I have in different places and put it all in one place, sort it out and have some sort of categories. At the moment I'm thinking probably I will make it by weight, or I might just see what categories naturally emerge as I go. Then I would love to organize a little bit more inside the boxes, because now it's just one big box and there's no system inside of it. So I want to use either some bags or some additional smaller boxes to keep the categories separate. So it's much more easy for me to find what I'm searching for. Oh, that was quite a challenge to sort it all out. Even though my yarn collection is not that big, but still there was quite a bit to do, so it took me quite a few hours. But now that I'm done, let's talk a little bit more about the categories that I decided to go with and what solutions did I use. I have 4 IKEA boxes, 4 drawer organizers, and a bunch of drawstring bags. The first category is sweater quantity of yarn. In my collection I don't have a lot of sweater quantity, because usually when I have some project in mind I buy yarn already for it, and I try to calculate as good as possible of how much yarn will I need, not to have a lot of leftover. Of course, it has happened in the past that I'm missing maybe one more skein and I need to buy it in addition, but that's not a big problem. I just don't want to waste yarn and have it sitting in my drawers for too long. So let me show you the sweater quantities of yarn that I currently have, and let me tell you a little bit about what I'm planning to do with it. First one is this purple yarn. I have 10 balls of it, and it's by brand Love Garden, and it's called Cocoon. It's 100% wool, and actually I bought it secondhand from a secondhand shopping platform, and it was really cheap. So I think I paid maybe €8 for these 10 balls of yarn, which I think it's a great deal. But the problem is, I don't enjoy it as much as I thought I will. My very first sweater that I have knitted was Louisiana sweater by PetiteKnit, and for it I used a really lovely purple shade. So when I saw this yarn, I remembered this first sweater and thought that the color really suited me. I really enjoyed it and would be fun to make something else from the same color. But what I really don't like about this yarn is this different thickness of it. When I first saw it, I thought it's really cool and might create an interesting texture. I can play around with it, but when I knitted a little swatch, I don't know, I just didn't enjoy how it looks like. So I think probably I will sell this yarn or gift it to some friend who's into knitting as well. Second sweater quantity is this Cotton Soft by Novita. I also have 10 balls of this yarn. I purchased it already with a project in mind. It was a summery cardigan. Actually, I even started knitting it, but then I unraveled because I didn't really enjoy the color for myself. I bought the yarn online, and to me it seemed like it's a bit more warm shade of red and also a bit muted, not as bright as it is. After receiving it, I thought maybe I can knit a sweater and then color it, but I don't want to knit a sweater and then if coloring doesn't turn out nice either, I don't know, it just sounds like too much complications for myself. So at the moment the idea is that I will still knit some sweater or a blouse from it and gift it to my sister, because she really does enjoy wearing red and I think this shade will suit her much more than it does suit me. One more sweater quantity. It's actually two different yarns that I planned to use together. It's Drops Flora, which is wool and alpaca mix, and I have it in the color number 13. And also it's Drops Kid Silk with a matching shade. So my idea was to knit April cardigan, which I have knit for myself in the past from Novita yarn. It was my cheapest knitted sweater, so the yarn that I used wasn't really luxurious. It was rather scratchy wool, but I really enjoyed the shape of the sweater on myself. And I thought that once that I tried knitting it from this cheap yarn, I will do a little upgrade and get myself something a bit nicer, which I do think that this combination is. After I knitted a swatch, I really enjoyed it. It's super soft and mohair gives a little glow. So I think it's a great combination. The only issue is I don't like the color. So when I started knitting, I wasn't very much thinking about what colors will I choose. I just chose whatever looked nice to me and didn't plan too much about how it will look like in my closet, how I can match the garments that I make. Recently, I have been way more interested in color theory, trying to explore what suits me and what doesn't. And unfortunately, I think blue is just not one of my colors. But good thing is that I have a friend for whom I think this April cardigan would look absolutely amazing. So I'm gonna keep these yarns and just knit April cardigan as a gift. And the last sweater quantity that I have is this Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk, which is one of my favorite yarns. I have knitted multiple times with it already, and I really enjoy both knitting with it and also wearing garments made from it. So my idea for this specific yarn is to knit another Cumulus blouse. I already have one, and it's also knitted with the same yarn, just in different shade. So I know that I will wear it and enjoy it. So it's just waiting for its time. One more yarn in this category. Even though I don't have enough to knit a sweater, I thought it belongs in this category because I still have quite a bit of it. It's Katya Concept Cotton Mohair. So it's really interesting yarn that I got as a gift from my mother. And from most of it I already knitted a sweater. It's my Bindweed cardigan. And since I have 4 more balls left, I thought I should knit a Bindweed shawl to match. That's it for the bigger quantities, and now let's go to other categories. This is the biggest category that I have. I managed to fill up a whole box with it, and it's a fingering weight yarn that I'm using for knitting socks. So let me put this down and talk you through it. I would say that this is my most adventurous category as well, because I'm a bit more open to experiment when knitting small garments, in this case socks. And also it just makes more sense financially, because to buy some fancy yarn for a full-on sweater, it really might get expensive, but to buy just one skein for socks, why not? Let me talk you through some of my favorites in this category. One that I must mention is this beautiful yarn by Malabrigo. I have bought it while visiting my friend in Czech Republic. We went to this really cozy yarn store and we both selected some yarns that we like. And funnily enough, we both selected the same Malabrigo little skein. So I have already knitted a pair of socks for my friend, and also I have some left over to knit something for myself as well. One of really popular yarns is Vilcolana Arveta, and I keep seeing a lot of knitters making socks from it. To be honest, I haven't made socks from it yet. I bought it for a shawl that I have knitted a while ago, so I cannot tell you how is it wearing as a sock yarn, but otherwise the knitting process was really lovely, because this yarn is so soft and squishy. I'm more used to these rougher sock yarns, so for me it was a very nice experience to use this. One of the most affordable options, and also easily available to me, is Drops. So I have quite a bit of this brand in my stash. It's easier to buy for me because quite a lot of stores around me offer it. And also I like that it has very many different options. So Drops have quite a bit of self-striping yarns as well as solid colors. And also I think it's a couple of different sock yarns that they sell. So this is Drops Fabel. Also I have a couple of Drops Nord skeins. I really enjoyed knitting with this yarn, and it's the longest lasting yarn out of all in my collection. So other more expensive yarns already have holes, but these Drops rough wool is really trusty and still keeps wearing even though the socks are already 3 years old. One of the more special ones in this category, it's a hand-dyed yarn from Lithuania, from Apmezga. If you have a chance, I would really encourage you to check it out. They have such amazing colors, and every time I feel like in a candy shop when I visit their yarn store. I mostly gifted those socks because it's a bit more fancy, so I didn't keep it for myself. I made it as a gift, and as far as I know, they're still holding up pretty well. One thing to note though, I would say that this yarn is a tiny bit thinner than my usual fingering yarn that I knit with. So usually I use 2.5mm needle, and for Apmezga yarn I use 2.25mm. So not a big difference, but just something to mention. Another trusty yarn is Shayanmar Regia. So I have quite a bit of different colors from this brand, and similarly to Drops, it's rather rough wool, but it wears really well. And also I didn't have any problem with my socks having holes in them too early or anything like that. So if you want something not too expensive with a lot of color options, Regia is also a good way to go. One a bit more adventurous yarn is this interesting little ball by Chopin, and I have seen it online and thought that it's really interesting, so on one of my travels, I think in Latvia it was, I purchased it. But one thing that I don't enjoy, it's way thinner than fingering weight, so I have a hard time figuring out how to use it. Either I should add some other yarn to it or use super thin needle, so I'm still thinking about it, but while I'm at it, I'm enjoying how pretty it is. One more thing to mention about the fingering weight category is that I keep even a really little amount of leftover yarn. In other categories I tend not to do it and either immediately throw the yarn away or give it away to someone who might use it. But as for fingering yarn, I know that I might use it for sock toes or heels, So even the small amount is really useful to me. That's why you see quite a bit of these small little yarn balls. The most random category. So here I put all my DK and Aran weight yarns. And why I decided to put them together is that usually I use Aran weight for socks. So DK I can also double up and use for the same purpose. And otherwise I really don't use these leftover skeins to make some patchwork sweater or something like that. Usually if I want to knit a sweater or a hat, I already purchase a specific amount of yarn and use it up. So these are some random leftovers that eventually will become socks, but probably not very soon. A little bit more boring category is summer yarns. And why do I say boring? Is because I don't really like purchasing cotton yarn. It's just so much nicer to buy wool or merino, these soft and squishy yarns, and especially mohair, which I absolutely love to choose. Cotton yarns, not so much. When I'm purchasing cotton yarns, I'm looking mostly at the color, but otherwise I don't enjoy the feeling as much. I mean, they're a bit harder on my wrists and also just way more rigid yarn, either if it's cotton or linen or other summer fibers. So yeah, that's why I would say that this category is not my favorite, but I still have some leftovers from summer knits. I plan to use them for knitting kitchen towels, pot holders or something like that. So I will still use them up, and I still enjoy having summer garments and knitting them, but just not as much as I enjoy these soft and fluffy yarns. And now that we're talking about soft and fluffy, let's go into lace category. So here I mostly have kid silk, brushed alpaca silk, and also a little bit of wool as well. In this category I have few different brands. So first of all, it's Drops. As you can see, it's one of my most used brands overall, just because it's so easily accessible and affordable. So I have both Drops Kid Silk in multiple colors and Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk. I also have Filcolana Tilia, which is a mohair, and in comparison with Drops Kid Silk, I can say that Filcolana definitely does feel more luxurious. It has more of this beautiful halo effect, but then again, it's quite a bit more pricey. So when choosing between these two, I just look at my project, at how much mohair will I need, and then make a choice based on that. In this category, I also have some rather interesting Latvian yarn from a brand called Dundaga, and it's 100% wool. It is really, really rough. When I bought it, it was in a skein, so I hand winded it because I don't have yarn ball winder yet. And to be honest, I don't know what to knit with it. I purchased it because it was so interesting and different, and I really loved seeing it in a skein, but now that it's wound up, for me it gives a little bit of Halloween vibes. This almost acidic green, and then there's purple shining through, so I don't know. Initially I thought I might try to knit some beautiful and airy shawl, but the yarn is so rough that I don't know how it would feel next to my skin and if I really want such a rough shawl. So I will see, but if you have any ideas, I would love to hear them in the comments of what you think I should make from this ball. This big bag here is my Tweed yarn. I gave it a separate category because I just have so much of it and I really enjoy knitting with Tweed. But inside the bag there's only 2 different brands and 2 different yarns. So from Drops of Tweed I have already knitted 3 different sweaters and I enjoy all of them. First one was Ralph Zippy Jumper, which for a long time was my very favorite. Now, to be honest, I got a little bit bored of it, but still I think it's wonderful. The yarn drapes beautifully, the sweater itself, it's really nice to throw on in summer evening. Another one is Portobello sweater, which to me seems rather similar to one of Cezanne's sweaters. So that's why I knitted it, because I really love the vibe. And third one was Aros sweater by PetiteKnit. So all three of them I really enjoyed knitting. Aros sweater now I gifted away because the colors were not suiting me too well, but other two I still have and wear very often. So I have quite a bit of leftover. There's even some full balls of it, and I'm thinking of maybe making some autumn dress from it. I keep this yarn and I know that I will definitely use it up. And another tweed yarn in this big bag is this Donegal tweed. I have so far knitted only one sweater from it. It was Alaska sweater. I really love how it turned out. It's so warm and for winter it's amazing. One thing though, this yarn was really tough on my wrists. I used 2 strands of it and it was rather difficult to knit, so my wrists were hurting for a while after it. So I'm not sure what to do with leftovers. I also bought it in a couple more colors, a bit brighter, so maybe I'll make some shawl or some smaller project. But for sure, wearing it I will enjoy, but I'm not ready to knit it with 2 strands again. Cones. So I don't know if they deserve their separate category, but at one point from local yarn shop I bought these 3 cones that were on a huge discount. I think it had merino wool and some synthetics in it as well. And from this greenish one, this one, I have already knitted a big Sophie scarf and gifted it to my mother. She loves it. So I'm thinking maybe I'll knit a matching hat or even some cropped sweater, because there's quite a lot of yarn in here. And the other 2, I don't have a project yet, so if you have any ideas, pop them down in the comments. I'm very open to hear it. That's all the categories I had today. I will insert a short clip of how I organized them as well and how are they actually going into the boxes. I hope it was interesting for you to see what yarns do I own, how do I sort them, and also hear a little bit more about how did I enjoy using them in the past, and also what projects I have in mind for the future. If you have any suggestions for the projects, I would love to hear it, and also if you have any questions about some specific yarn, would like more in-depth review, then also please write to me and I will make sure to make a video about it. Since the yarn is all sorted now, as promised in the beginning of this video, I will chat a little bit more about my Ranunculus blouse that I am currently wearing. So usually I don't knit the same sweater pattern multiple times, but the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose is an exception. I really love this pattern. It's so much fun to knit and has rather unusual stitches. So the first time I was knitting, it took me a little while to figure it out, but I still really do enjoy it. And the very first version was made out of Drops brushed alpaca silk, which is one of my favorite yarns. The second one was actually my wedding sweater, which I used as a little cover-up for my wedding dress. And I knitted it from Drops kid silk, and I used only 1 strand, so it was really airy and see-through. Overall, just a wonderful sweater as well. And this is the 3rd version. I wanted to have Ranunculus also in this summery kind of version, so the yarn that I used for this one is Drops Bell, which is a mix of cotton, viscose and linen. So it has a really nice drape, it's breathable, and overall really summery. Also, my version is rather cropped, since in summer I usually wear high-waisted shorts or pants, so that's how I like my summer blouses to be like. And I decided not to knit long sleeves and keep them short. And also one more modification I added is 4 stitches I-cord in the end, which I think gives it a bit more of nice structure and just nicer finish. If you would like to knit this pattern, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun and I'm sure you won't be bored while knitting it. If you enjoyed my little yarn collection, you might be interested to see what I have knitted with it. So make sure to check out my video where I share my 5 favorite knitted garments so far. I hope you have a lovely day and see you soon. Bye!